there, YouTubers. It's Rick from RG Knives. This is a follow-up video on an etching system I have, and I kind of wanted to just show a little more in-depth actual working ability and what it entails. There was some questions about whether it was safe or not safe, and truly I'm not an electrician. I'm an everyday guy who has some knowledge about volts and electricity, but I feel fairly safe. I've been using this thing for quite a while now, and have etched many blades with it, and it's temperamental based on its user, and so we'll go over it. So this is the system. You can kind of check the other video out if you think you might need it. Pardon the angle on the camera here. I kind of got in the middle of etching a few blades, and I wanted to stop and just kind of show. I've etched one. I'll show them both at the end, and I'll show one blade being etched the best I can with this system I have. So once again, I'm going to kind of try and zoom in on what this is. It's a charging system for a toy or something, implement that was around the house. We all kind of have them, I think. They're a reduction from 110 to whatever volts the little toy or electronic device needs, phones, that sort of thing, chargers for other things. So it takes a 110, reduces it with this thing here, and charges the item that it was bought with. And I happen to have this one, which works really well. So the other thing I did was took apart an old battery charger I had and just used the positive and negative ends for it, and black taped it so far right now to the end of this charger. So when this charger was new, it had a little plug at the end of it, and I took it apart and stripped the cords and had to use a multimeter to see which one was negative, which one was positive, which allowed me to put the red to the positive, obviously the black to the negative. You can kind of go back and look at that other video, and I might have explained that just a touch better. Otherwise, it truly doesn't matter. It's a matter of functionality, and when you actually get into the etching of a blade or metal or logo or whatever you want to etch with a system like this, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And then what I've found is it didn't work when I had the wrong negative or positive either grounded to the system or to the actual device I'm going to be etching with. So essentially it's just a matter of convenience finding negative and positive. Once you know your system, if you decide to do something like this, it's not an issue. You just kind of know which one you etch with and which one you ground with. I happen to ground with the red, and I etch with the black. So let me get set up, and I'll kind of show you how it etches. The other thing I want to show you is there's lots of things you can use to be the etching implement or the tool you actually place on the metal. I happen to have a piece of steel that I just kind of ground and shaped and whatnot and put it in so that I can essentially just clamp my cord on so that I can do the etching. I wanted it to be as wide and as long as my stencil, and I'll clean this stencil up and show what it looks like. I get them from Tuss Technologies. They're an excellent company to work with. I don't get anything for saying their name. I'm just a knife builder who likes to share good information, and they are I tried making my own. I've seen guys out there who do you know, they put nail polish on their blade and scratch away what they want etched, and that works good, but I didn't want to have to do that every single time. I wanted some uniformity in my maker's mark, and for the price that I got these guys to make me 5 stencils, I'm still on number 2, and I've etched many blades, and I think I'd still be on number 1 if I knew what I was doing initially when I started. So, or I had a decent system. Kind of similar to this one. I mean, this one kind of has kind of narrowed down to kind of what works for me and what's friendly to use, and that's kind of essentially what you want to get to. So let me get set up and I'll get to etching something here. Okay, I kind of wanted to show all the things that I kind of set up to get ready to etch. First thing I do obviously is have the metal, or in my case the blade that I want to etch my maker's mark or logo on, and then I have, like I talked about, this stencil that was made by you know, that Test Technologies once again. So I make sure the blade is clean. You guys can use whatever you want for doing that. I use a thinner, and you know, do that well, because up until you're ready to put your mark on, you know, you've used a lot of materials like oils and grit and sandpaper, and you know, you've hardened it or not hardened it. You can do etching prior or after. I've done both. And so really make sure that you get it good and clean, or best you can, in the area for sure that you're going to etch. And then I use some felt, just craft felt. For me, I think you can get sophisticated as you want. They probably make things that you can purchase, and you know, they have other systems that are specifically for etching. I just didn't happen to want to spend that kind of money at this point. And I just use a simple rubber band to put it around. This was fresh when I used it on the first blade, and it kind of gets a little cruddy as you etch. So I use one thing for 2 knives, and then I throw it away or use one. Felt's cheap. And then in between each etching of a blade, I clean this off, because I'll show it at the end. It gets pretty cruddy also, just to build up with stuff on it. And then, all right, so I'll get it set up a little bit more and we'll show the actual etching. So I'm going to do the best I can to show what I can with this camera angle. I don't have this most sophisticated equipment, but I at least can get the job done. So you obviously want to know where you're going to place this thing. So when I first started etching some blades, I put tape on every spare area that I could find, and truly that didn't work as well as I thought it would. So I use now mostly enough tape to basically secure it to the area that I want etched, and it allows me to do a couple things, and I'll show you. I put it down on the bottom across the stencil, and then I put it on one side only. And so obviously you get one chance at this for the most part to etch an area, and you want to make sure it lays down as flat as possible in that area. What I've found with these etching systems is, if you don't, what I did initially was make this stencil, I cut it out of the sheet that it comes in as small as I could, thinking that I could use the tape as the blocker. Tape does not block the electrical conductivity near as well as this actual stencil. So now I use a bigger cutout of my stencil so that when I'm touching my electrode to the area I want etched, it's not touching tape. And what I was getting was burn areas through the tape around my stencil. So it actually really sucked. So so what I'm going to do is ground this blade. I'll plug in my my little system here. So the other thing is a little salt water mixture. I don't know what the mixture is. I don't have a system. I don't have a measurement. If I had to guess, let's say a cup and you know, a tablespoon or something like that. But truly, I don't think it matters a whole lot. It has to be you know, a salty solution. So I take off some of the extra moisture, and what I found works for me in my etching, and you'll have to play with your own, is about 6 to 8 applications with a 10 count. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so I can already see the black. When and you may not be able to see it on the camera, but when I put this down and I get a little squeeze out of the solution, I can see it bubbling on the end. You can hear it if you're close enough. I doubt you'll hear it on the video, but so we'll go again. And so I just move incrementally, just fractionally left, right, up, above, and below, so I know that I'm getting good contact with the whole stencil. I won't count out loud like you're on Sesame Street on every one of these, but you can guesstimate or count to yourself if you want to. So I don't leave it on, you know, so why don't you leave it on for the whole time? This thing has to gas off a little bit, and it does a few things. So it clears the air and gases off, lets it cool. I get to see kind of what areas I've been on and pick it up, move my stencil, make sure that you know, things are looking good. So you can kind of see, I'm assuming, this thing turning black. That's kind of what gets in that stencil, and obviously what you'd need to clean in between each application. Somebody needs to comment real quick and just see how many I've done. I lost count. I think we're on 5. So in a second, I'm going to show you the good reason why I don't put tape all the way around it. I recently did a knife, and you know, like I said, you got to get one chance at this. Putting this stencil back over the top of what you've already stenciled would not go well. I don't think. At least I don't trust myself to line it up again and double image the stencil. I recently had a knife come out really crappy. Wasn't happy with it, and I thought it looked good, but you know, kind of really pay attention to before you take this whole thing off and you call it finished. You should be able to. What I do is anytime I put this thing down, or sometimes I dip it in this water again, I take the electrode off. Don't touch these two together. It's not enough of any current to truly shock you, do anything bad, but I mean, it's just a safety thing. So now I can lift that, I hope you can see that, and without taking it completely off and missing and getting my alignment all messed up, I can see that I got good etching as deep as I think I need it with this application. So I'm going to call it done. I'll clean these up, and I'll kind of show you close up what they look like right after the etch. Obviously they need to be cleaned up, and so what I do is I get my blades close to putting a handle on, to the point where I think I'm going to need 1 or 2 more final sandings with whatever finish I'm looking for, and then I etch. And then obviously when I clean this thing off, I'm doing 2 things. I'm doing my final sanding on my blade prior to putting my handles on, and cleaning up the edges of the etching. So I'll show this stencil also, and you'll get good instructions on how to clean these up. They say take them in between applications, clean them off with some warm soapy water. I don't always follow the rules, so I pretty much just kind of dip it in the solution I use for etching, and I just rub it. It comes away pretty clean, and then you can kind of see what your stencil looks like. The last one I used, I burnt the heck out of it, and it's not that tough to see. They make these out of some photosensitive paper, so they're pretty durable, but you do need to take care of them. And I keep mine in a little envelope and then in a baggie, and set it out to kind of dry. And I'll replace that water the next time I use it. I just kind of wanted to get this done. So I'll wrap this video up. Essentially, it's done. I thought I had some other clips for you, but I wasn't actually videoing. Evidently, I was taking pictures. It just showed a little bit of the sanding, how fast that kind of cleans up. This camera is doing some bright and dark thing again. I apologize. I'll make this quick towards the end here and just kind of show the final etching of what that system's capable of. Gives a pretty good etch, and cleans up really good. If you like this video, you got anything out of it, got any comments, feel free to shoot me a note, subscribe, do a thumbs up. It helps me kind of know that I'm on the right path to helping just a few people, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.